But I've seen so many mayhems where you're trying to back solve 5 years of a startup's company with transactions and promises, and it can be such a headache.
So if we're moving on to best practice, what should we think about then?
11 quick steps that, based on our experience, investors and yourself will be helped by. They will love it, and they will not like it if we do it otherwise.
Okay, so where do we start? The first step.
We talked about it. Have a sufficient number of shares in the company. And if you started out with only one share or very few shares, it's not game over by any means. You can do a share split, so you have better flexibility when you grow.
Okay.
Number one.
Number two.
Number two, don't copy the share register. Be selective with the information. So, for instance, if you have a huge ESA pool, you don't have to list the name of all of the employees, their address, and so forth. You can bundle it together.
Okay.
So only have the relevant information. It can be a section for minority shareholders, a section for ESOP, not yet deployed, etc.
Okay, and that takes us to number three.
And that is to have a very, very clear overview. Then you can layer information, everything they need to know. But on the front page, so to speak, I love Excel, then you should just be able to make the general. You should see this outlining. Super simple, super clear.
Number four.
Number four, always be very clear what securities you have in the company. Because more often than you would think, you might forget to mention that you have different kinds of preference shares, or you might forget to list the ESOP or a convertible. Make sure that everything is listed. All types of securities should be mentioned clearly.
Good.
An investor can otherwise be annoyed and feel like they're almost like deceived if they don't get the full picture.
Okay, so be clear.
Yeah.
Then we're heading over to number five.
Yeah, and number five actually was the preference shares. That if you have different types of preference shares, you need to be clear about that. Because sometimes you only list preference shares, but if you have 3 different types, that's super important. If you talk to a new investor, they need to have that information. So please remember that.
Yes, and number six
is that many cap tables are used in relation to future funding rounds. And then you need to be very clear what on the cap table is fact. What is history? What has happened? What is the case today? And what is the future? Assumptions. That is not a given. So it doesn't come off as the future funding round also being a fact, because that's, again, assumptions. Be clear about that difference.
Okay, but I should write if I'm gonna do a funding round.
Yeah, you can write pro forma. That's the calculation of the future funding round. You're in discussions with investor A, B, and C, valuation X, number of shares Y, and then the ownership will look like this after that funding round.
That's good, because I think the investor really wants to know about that.
Oh, of course.
Number seven then.
Number seven, that's what we talked about here. That be clear, so it's easy to read both on a non-diluted basis, because that's really important to know who has the voting rights, who has the control today, what will the economic rights look like today, and also be very clear on a fully diluted basis. So I know exactly what is the real price per share I'm investing in. Because when I look to invest in the company, I will calculate based on the fully diluted basis. I will not calculate only on the non-diluted. Because I will need to know if there's a huge convertible coming in and taking a stake in the company. That will dilute me. So I need to calculate that.
Okay, that's really good.
And number 8, something that the investors will love when you're scaling and things are getting more complex, is if you also show in an easy way if you have reserved matters and qualified majority, so that you can track which investors and which qualified majority has the control rights. Because this can be crucial when you look at the future investment and you need to get general meetings resolution for specific decisions. So you need to know how a new investment will impact the reserved matters.
Number 9.
And that is, it might seem evident right now, but something that drives many investors crazy when we outdated cap tables. And that happens often. The most basic that happens is that we forget to update the ESOP, the employee stock options. Because things move fast. And somebody quits early and you employ 2 new persons and everybody's happy along. And you send the cap table to your investor and it turns out that it was 2% off because you have forgotten to update it. They can be really annoyed by that. So try to find a good routine, because if you do it directly, it will be easy and it won't cost much. But I've seen so many mayhems where you're trying to back solve 5 years of a startup's company journey with transactions and promises, and it can be such a headache. So do it early, have a routine that every time something happens, you have a responsible party for the cap table who's informed.
So what I can hear, you need to be things to be written in the cap table is things happening now and the people owning and future funding rounds or such things.
Yeah, and make sure it's up to date. Changes that happen should be reflected in the cap table directly.
But what about the historic data? Would you care about that?
Absolutely. That's good to have in the layered information. Then you can have, so you can look at the valuation, and as we discussed, for instance, in our episode about dragalogs, it can be crucial to know when you look at the preference rights, who invested at what valuation, what will be their trigger point for exit. So you can have that in layered information, but you don't have to have it in the overview, the summary that you begin with, so it's easy.
And that takes us to number 10.
I'm a big fan of Excel. But regardless of what format, or if you want to pay for some online solution, what have you, savvy investors, they will love to be able to edit in the cap table. So they can verify your calculations and they can try different assumptions. So send it in an editable form, like an Excel spreadsheet instead of a PDF, something that they cannot test and try. Because a really good put together cap table, then you will just be able to change one digit, one factor, and you will see how everything changes and becomes up to date. So you can try different scenarios. That is something that the investors will love.
And that takes us to the last one, number 11.
And that's the one I've been really looking forward to share with you, because I really want you to take this to heart. And that is that the cap table has key sensitive information. So share it on a need-to-know basis.
And what do you mean by that?
I mean that imagine that you're a publicly traded company and you and I signed a term sheet that you might invest 10 million in my company. The term sheet will include a long disclosure. I happy-go-lucky put that into the cap table to calculate the future funding round. And then I send it around to everybody and their mother. So everybody now knows about our secret term sheet, about you planning to invest 10 million in my company. And you find out, because some of your competitor calls you up, hey, I heard you looking at this company, you know what, we are as well. Will you be glad?
No, I would not be.
No, that won't piss you off.
Okay, so think about that.
Yeah. So keep it on a need-to-know basis. You don't have to share all information with everybody. So, for instance, somebody might only need to know that founder A, founder B, investor A, investor B, ESOP. That might be enough. You might not have to share the identity.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we need to know about the cap table? Common mistakes, what is it?
I think it's not prioritizing it early, because this is the mother load. This is the source. This is your company. This is your baby. This is your control. This is what happens. This is how you circulate it and what happens. So learn to love your cap table. Learn to know it. Play around with it. Also, you can use it for the waterfall. The waterfall is the distribution upon exit. Who gets what when you sell the company? And if you have a really good cap table, that will be easy. Look at this, and then you just want to know, okay, so if I sell the company for 20 million, how much will I get? And we imagine that that will happen when the ESOPs are executed, so they are shareholders. Super easy to calculate in Excel.
Really, really good. I mean, this looks like a good marketing tool you can have when you want to get on investors.
Exactly. If you do it perfectly beautiful and appetizing for them, they will appreciate it because they have seen headaches and chaos and backtracking and everything.
So your tip will really be to fix your cap table and do it really, really good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Get to know it.
Get to know it. Thank you so much for sharing this.
Thank you all. Love it.
And in this episode, we talked about the difference between share ledger and cap table, and Kat also presented the cap table, which is very good to know. Here it is. So, I mean, if you're having a company and planning on to bring on investors, you know you need to fix your cap table because it's very, very important.
I have one more tip.
We have one more thing.
Yeah. And that is, we scouted YouTube before we did the video because we want to make sure we do value add. And we haven't seen anybody giving this kind of insight into investors' viewpoints, how they care, how they want the cap table to be circulated. So that's our contribution. But we have seen fantastic tutorials how you work with Excel. So we'll put together a video playlist for you where we also have the best tutorials for Excel cap tables.
To do it practically.
Yeah, so we'll help you out to find them.
So now you know how to impress your investor with this type of cap table, and we're going to keep on sharing this because, I mean, you get this knowledge at zero cost. Key. And that is keep yourself educated because that is where the money is, to be honest.
It's key to success.
Key to success. Until next time, keep on rocking those business tools and I'll see you around. Thank you.
Bye.